We are about to travel, gently, into the 19th century, to the streets and gardens of Paris, to the riversides and cafes, where a group of painters dared to change how we see. Impressionism is often thought of as light, as color, as shimmering brushstrokes, but it is also a story of rebellion, of persistence, of friendship, and of vision. To understand it, we must first see what came before, the weight of tradition that these artists carried, and the new world that was emerging around them. The world before Impressionism. It is the mid-19th century. Paris is both ancient and new. On one side, centuries of tradition weigh heavily. The Académie des Beaux-Arts, the Academy of Fine Arts, dictates the rules of painting. The Academy's vision is clear. Painting must be serious, historical, noble. The Salon, the official exhibition of the Academy, is the gatekeeper of success. To be admitted is to have a career. To be rejected is to face obscurity. Inside the Salon, you would find grand canvases, biblical stories, Roman myths, scenes of kings and warriors. Paintings were smooth, polished, with little trace of the artist's hand. Nature was idealized. Figures were perfected. This was the art of authority, art that proclaimed truth and order. Now imagine yourself standing in one of those crowded salon rooms. Paintings line the walls from floor to ceiling, frames glimmering with gold leaf. The air is heavy with formality, with critics whispering judgments. This is the world that the young Impressionists entered, a world that did not yet have a place for their vision. A changing Paris. While the Salon clung to tradition, the world outside its walls was changing rapidly. The Industrial Revolution had transformed Europe. Factories, railways, new machines. Technology was altering how people lived, traveled, and worked. In Paris, Baron Haussmann had begun his vast renovation of the city. Narrow medieval streets were torn down, replaced by wide boulevards, open squares, and modern buildings. Light and air poured into the capital. Cafes, theaters, and parks became new spaces of leisure. Parisians strolled, mingled, watched, and were watched. This new Paris was alive with movement. Horse-drawn carriages rattled on the cobblestones. Trains departed for the countryside. Gas lamps illuminated the night. Life was faster, more visible, more public. And artists, too, began to feel that the old subjects, gods and heroes, battles and myths, no longer spoke to this vibrant modern city. They longed to paint life, as it was lived now, the fleeting moments, the changing light, the ordinary joys, the seeds of rebellion. Several currents fed this longing. One was the rise of realism, led by painters like Gustave Courbet. Courbet shocked the art world by painting peasants, laborers, and everyday life on canvases as large and grand as any mythological scene. He declared, "I cannot paint an angel because I have never seen one." For him, truth lay in the world before his eyes. Another influence was the new technology of photography. Invented in the early 19th century, photography captured fleeting expressions, unposed scenes, moments of light and shadow. Painters saw in it both a challenge and an inspiration. If the camera could record reality, perhaps painting could do something else. Capture not just form, but perception, feeling, the impression of a moment. And there was also the lure of the outdoors. New paints in tubes, newly portable, allowed artists to leave the studio and paint en plein air, directly in the open air, surrounded by the sights and sounds of life. No longer confined to artificial light and staged models, they could chase the shifting sunlight, the sparkle of water, the rustle of leaves, All these currents, realism, photography, outdoor painting, the modernization of Paris, converged in a new generation of painters. They wanted freedom. They wanted immediacy. They wanted to paint what it felt like to be alive in their time. The first exhibition. By the early 1870s, this group had grown restless. Year after year, their works were rejected by the Salon. They were told their paintings looked unfinished, sketch-like, improper. But they were undeterred. In 1874, they organized their own exhibition, renting space in the studio of the photographer Nadar on Boulevard des Capucines. 30 artists exhibited their works, including Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Edgar Degas, Camille Pissarro, Berthe Morisot, Alfred Sisley, and Paul Cézanne. Among the paintings shown was Monet's Impression, Sunrise, Impression, Soleil Levant. It depicted the port of Le Havre, with the sun rising through mist, boats and water shimmering with loose, quick strokes. A critic mocked the title, saying, "These painters are mere impressionists. Their canvases look like impressions, not finished works." But the insult became a banner. The painters embraced the name, Impressionists. They were not trying to recreate reality in detail. They were trying to capture its impression, the fleeting effect of light, color, atmosphere. What did it mean to be an impressionist? To be an impressionist was to defy convention. It was to paint quickly, often outdoors, to use visible brushstrokes, broken color, to let the canvas shimmer with immediacy. Subjects were not grand histories, but the modern world. A cafe, a dance hall, a train station, a quiet riverbank, a child in a garden. The everyday became worthy of art. Critics often ridiculed them. Some said their paintings looked like smears of paint, like the unfinished beginnings of something better. But over time, others began to sense the vitality, the honesty, the freshness of their vision. They were painting not the object itself, but the sensation of seeing it, not the permanence of things, but the fleeting moment. Meditative interlude. Stepping into the scene. Close your eyes now and imagine yourself walking the streets of Paris in the 1870s. The boulevards are wide and lined with young trees. Carriages pass, and the air smells of smoke and fresh bread. You turn a corner and enter a small gallery, lit by daylight through tall windows. On the walls you see something strange, something unlike the polished paintings of the Salon. Quick brushstrokes, vibrant colors. A harbor at dawn, the sun glowing orange through mist. Figures at a dance caught in motion. Children playing in a garden, their faces radiant in the light. At first you think, these are unfinished, but then as you stand, you begin to feel the freshness, the life in them. It is as if the world itself has entered the canvas. The impression of the moment is alive before you. This is what it was to step into the birth of Impressionism, to feel a new vision taking shape, the courage to begin. The Impressionists did not know, in 1874, that they would one day be celebrated in museums around the world. They faced rejection, mockery, financial struggle. But they believed in their vision. They painted together, exhibited together, supported one another. Their rebellion was not loud or violent, but persistent, patient, luminous. Brushstroke by brushstroke, they transformed the way art was seen. The origins of Impressionism remind us that innovation often begins in small rooms, among friends, with courage to be different. That beauty can lie in the fleeting, the everyday, in the sunlight on water, in the shadow on a face, in the moment before it passes. Take a slow breath. We have walked through the first steps of Impressionism, the world before it, the changes in Paris, the seeds of rebellion, the first exhibition, the courage to paint impressions instead of illusions. Rest here for a moment. Imagine the brushstrokes shimmering before you, soft light on water, the orange sun rising. Let it settle into your mind. Let it drift with you as you rest. Section 2. Techniques and Innovations. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw loosen. Notice the rhythm of your breathing, calm and steady. We are about to enter the studios, the riverbanks, the gardens where the Impressionists discovered new ways of seeing. Impressionism was not just a new choice of subject matter, it was also a revolution in technique. The brush moved differently, the colors shone differently, the very surface of the canvas changed. These painters experimented, risked, and allowed their tools to carry them into fresh visions. Let us walk gently through these innovations. Painting en plein air. The phrase en plein air means in the open air. It became the lifeblood of Impressionism. Before the mid-19th century, most paintings were created in studios. Artists sketched outdoors, then returned indoors to complete their works. But Impressionists carried their canvases, their easels, their paints directly into fields, gardens, riverbanks, city streets. This was made possible by a technological change, the invention of portable paint tubes in the 1840s. For centuries, artists had mixed pigments laboriously in their studios. Now color could be squeezed out, like toothpaste, ready for immediate use. Light, they discovered, is fleeting. It changes minute by minute. To capture it, one must paint quickly, directly, before the sun shifts, before clouds drift across the sky. Imagine Claude Monet at Argenteuil, setting up his easel by the Seine. He loads his brush with blue, with green, with the white of reflected light. The river sparkles, boats drift. The air is alive with the scent of water and grass. He paints as if racing the sun, his canvas an arena where light and time collide. To paint in plein air was to let the world itself guide the brush. It was to surrender to the moment, to accept imperfection in exchange for vitality. Pause. Imagine yourself outdoors with a canvas. The wind brushes your skin, the sun warms your hands. You dip a brush into color, watching as the scene before you shifts with each breath. This was the Impressionist way, to let nature become a partner in creation. Brushwork, the visible hand. In academic painting, brushstrokes were hidden. The surface was smooth, seamless, as if the image had appeared without human touch. The Impressionists broke this rule. They left their brushstrokes visible, short, quick, rhythmic, like notes in music. The canvas shimmered with strokes of pure color, each one alive with energy. Monet often used small broken touches of paint, layering them so that the eye blended them at a distance. Renoir used softer strokes, fluid and sensual, to render skin, fabric, the warmth of gatherings. Degas favored long directional strokes, guiding the viewer's gaze across dancers and stages. The result was not polished perfection, but immediacy, vibrancy, motion. The viewer could feel the artist's hand, the moment of creation still alive in the paint. Pause again. Close your eyes and imagine a canvas up close. Not a smooth surface, but a dance of strokes, blue against yellow, red against violet. As you step back, the strokes dissolve into form, a tree, a face, a reflection on water. The Impressionists trusted the eye to finish the work, to weave fragments into vision. Color, the new palette. Color was another field of experimentation. For centuries, painters mixed darks by adding black or brown. The Impressionists abandoned this. They found that shadows were not gray but filled with color. Look at a snowbank at sunset. Its shadows glow blue, violet, even green. Look at a face in the evening light. Shadows may carry orange, pink, purple. The Impressionists painted these colors boldly, using complementary hues to make them vibrate. Blue beside orange, red beside green, yellow beside violet. They painted not the object as it should be, but the colors it appeared to reflect in that moment. This was aided by the invention of new pigments in the 19th century. Brilliant cobalt blue, emerald green, chrome yellow. The palette became more luminous, more varied, more alive. Monet's series of haystacks painted at different times of day demonstrated this principle. The same stack of hay might glow gold at dawn, violet at dusk, silver under winter light. Color was not fixed, it was a living phenomenon. Pause. Imagine watching the light shift on a wall throughout the day. Morning, pale yellow. Noon, bright white. Evening, orange fading into violet. This was the Impressionist discovery. Color is time made visible. The influence of photography. Photography was still young in the 19th century, but it had already transformed vision. Cameras captured fleeting expressions, casual poses, moments blurred by movement. Degas, fascinated by photography, used its lessons in his paintings of dancers and racehorses. He cropped figures unexpectedly, as if caught in passing. A leg cut off at the edge of the canvas, a face seen from above. These were shocking in painting, but natural to the photographic eye. The Impressionists absorbed this, creating compositions that felt spontaneous, immediate, like a glimpse stolen from life. Pause again. Picture a snapshot. Friends laughing, a child running, a dancer mid-step. Now imagine translating that instant into paint, brushstrokes quick and alive. That is what the Impressionists sought, to make painting as immediate as a photograph, yet more fluid, more alive. Japonism, the art of Japan. Another influence was Japanese art, which began to arrive in Europe after Japan opened to the West in the 1850s. Japanese woodblock prints, ukiyo-e, astonished European artists. Their flat planes of color, bold outlines, asymmetrical compositions, and scenes of everyday life offered a new way of seeing. Impressionists borrowed freely from these prints. Degas used their unusual angles and cropping in his ballet scenes. Monet collected Japanese prints and built a Japanese garden in Giverny. Cassatt studied their depictions of women in domestic settings, finding a language for her own explorations of family and intimacy. Through Japonisme, Impressionists learned that art need not obey Western rules of perspective or hierarchy, that beauty could lie in the ordinary, in the fleeting, in the decorative. Pause. Imagine a Japanese print, a wave curling, a figure in a kimono, a bridge over a river, flat planes of color, strong lines, balance, and asymmetry. Now imagine how these qualities might enter an Impressionist canvas. A dancer seen from above, a garden path from an unusual angle. This is the quiet dialogue between cultures that enriched the movement, series, and the study of time. One of the most remarkable innovations of the Impressionists was the idea of painting the same subject repeatedly to capture its changing light and atmosphere. Monet's series, haystacks, Rouen Cathedral, the Houses of Parliament, water lilies, showed how a single subject could transform endlessly. It was not the object that mattered, but the play of light upon it, the shifting veil of perception. To stand before Monet's Rouen Cathedral series is to see the facade dissolve and reappear, glowing pink at dawn, blazing white at noon, sinking into shadow at dusk. The stone becomes immaterial, a surface for light's passing touch. This way of painting was revolutionary. It suggested that reality itself was not fixed, but in constant flux, that to see was to witness change. Pause. Imagine standing before a window, watching the same tree across a day. Morning mist, noon glare, evening glow. It is the same tree, yet never the same. This was the heart of Impressionist vision, the freedom of the canvas. Together, these techniques, plein air painting, visible brushwork, vibrant color, photographic spontaneity, Japanese influence, series of time, freed the canvas. Painting was no longer bound to myth or history, nor to polished perfection. It became alive, immediate, experimental. The Impressionists turned the act of painting into a dialogue with perception itself. Critics may have sneered, but they had opened a door that could never be closed. Meditative reflection. Take a breath now. We have walked through the techniques of Impressionism, the innovations that made it new. Imagine yourself as one of these painters. Your easel is set up by a river. The light is shifting. Quick. You dip your brush into pure color. Lay strokes upon the canvas. Not smooth, not hidden, but alive, visible. The canvas glows with immediacy. You are not painting the river. You are painting the moment of seeing the river. You are not painting the cathedral. You are painting the light that touches it now, and now, and now. This is the Impressionist way, to honor the fleeting, to find beauty in change, to trust that the eye and the heart can weave fragments into vision. Rest with this thought. Let the colors drift in your mind. Blues, yellows, violets, greens. Brushstrokes shimmering like the surface of water, like the memory of a dream. Section 3. The Major Artists. Settle once again. Notice your breath, the gentle rhythm of inhale and exhale. Feel the weight of your body held safely. We are about to step into a gallery of lives, where each canvas reveals not only color and light, but the soul of the painter who made it. Impressionism was not a single hand, but many hands, many visions, woven together in friendship, rivalry, and shared rebellion. Let us walk, slowly, through the lives of the major artists who gave this movement its shape. Claude Monet, the painter of light. When one thinks of Impressionism, the first name is often Claude Monet. Born in 1840 in Paris, raised in Le Havre by the sea, he was captivated by water, sky, changing weather. Monet began as a caricaturist, but soon turned to landscape under the mentorship of Eugène Boudin, who encouraged him to paint outdoors. It was there, in open air, that Monet discovered his vocation. In 1874, his painting Impression Sunrise gave the movement its name. He captured the harbor of Le Havre at dawn, a red sun glowing through mist, boats sketched with swift strokes, water shimmering. It was not a finished scene, but a sensation, an impression of a moment. Throughout his life, Monet pursued light as if it were a living being. He painted haystacks, Rouen Cathedral, poplar trees, not once, but dozens of times, in morning, in noon, in twilight, in sun, in fog, in snow. He showed that nothing is fixed. Light transforms everything. His great late works, the water lilies, were painted in his garden at Giverny. Ponds, reflections, floating blossoms. He built the garden himself, planting, shaping, tending, so that he could paint it endlessly. Stand before his water lilies, and you lose the sense of horizon, of ground. You float, suspended between water and sky, where reflection and depth merge. It is both vast and intimate, both calm and infinite. Pause now. Imagine standing at the edge of Monet's pond. The surface ripples gently. Lilies float, clouds drift across the water. The brush captures not the object, but the shimmer, the play, the endless dance of light. This was Monet's gift, to teach us that the world is never still, that beauty lies in its perpetual transformation. Pierre-Auguste Renoir, the joy of life. If Monet was the painter of light, Pierre-Auguste Renoir was the painter of joy. Born in 1841, Renoir began as a porcelain painter, decorating plates with delicate flowers. This background gave him a sensitivity to color, to surfaces that glow. Renoir's paintings celebrate life, leisure, intimacy. He painted friends at cafes, couples dancing, women bathing, children at play. Where Monet sought light, Renoir sought warmth, touch, pleasure. His brushwork is soft, fluid, flesh luminous, fabrics radiant. In Danse, at Le Moulin de la Galette, 1876, he captured a Sunday afternoon in Montmartre. Couples twirling, sunlight filtering through trees, faces glowing with happiness. It is not just a scene, but the sensation of being there, of joy shared in community. Renoir once said, "For me, a picture should be something pleasant, cheerful, and pretty. Yes, pretty." There are enough unpleasant things in life without creating still more of them. His art was not naive, but a deliberate affirmation of beauty, of the sensual, of the human. Pause. Imagine yourself at the Moulin de la Galette. Music floats, laughter rises, sunlight dapples the ground. Around you, faces glow with warmth, hands touch, smiles bloom. This was Renoir's vision, that painting could be an embrace, a celebration of the joy of living. Edgar Degas, the observer of movement. Where Monet chased light and Renoir painted joy, Edgar Degas sought movement, form, discipline. Born in 1834 to a wealthy family, Degas studied the old masters, admiring Ingres, Delacroix, Renaissance draftsmanship. He combined this classical training with a modern eye for spontaneity. Degas is best known for his dancers, not just on stage, but backstage, in rehearsal, at rest, at work. He painted them stretching, tying shoes, adjusting dresses. His eye was keen, unsentimental, exact. He used unusual angles, influenced by photography and Japanese prints. A dancer cut off at the edge of the canvas, a view from above, from behind. These perspectives made his paintings feel immediate, candid. Degas also painted horse races, laundresses, cafe scenes. Always he studied the body in motion. His pastels shimmer with layered strokes, capturing both grace and strain. Though associated with Impressionism, Degas saw himself as a realist. He disliked plein air painting, preferring the controlled light of the studio. But his innovations in composition, movement, his embrace of the fleeting instant, place him firmly in the heart of the movement. Pause. Imagine a rehearsal room. Dancers stretch. A piano plays softly. The air smells of chalk and sweat. You watch through Degas' eyes, not the spectacle of the stage, but the quiet discipline behind it, the beauty of preparation, the poetry of effort. Degas reminds us that Impressionism was not only about sunlight and joy, but about observing the truth of movement, with honesty, precision, and respect. Berthe Morisot, the feminine vision. Among the Impressionists, Berthe Morisot stands as a pioneer, one of the few women in the group, yet one of its strongest voices. Born in 1841 into an educated family, Morisot studied privately, as women were barred from official art schools. She exhibited at the Salon as early as 1864 and soon joined the Impressionists, becoming central to their circle. Her paintings often depict domestic life, mothers and children, women reading, gardens, interiors, moments of intimacy. But far from being confined, these scenes reveal strength, depth, complexity. Her brushwork is light, fluid, colors delicate yet bold. She captured not only appearance, but the atmosphere of a moment, the quiet between gestures, the intimacy of looking. In works like The Cradle, 1872, she painted her sister gazing at her infant. The veil over the cradle softens the scene, as if time itself were hushed. It is both tender and profound. Morisot fought against the constraints placed on women, carving a space for herself with determination. Her presence reminds us that Impressionism was not only about male genius, but also about women's perspectives, about the everyday realities they transformed into art. Pause. Imagine a quiet room, sunlight filtering through lace curtains. A woman sits, reading. A child sleeps. A garden blooms just beyond the window. This is Morisot's world, intimate, luminous, a space where tenderness is power. Mary Cassatt, the American Impressionist. Another woman's voice in Impressionism was Mary Cassatt, an American who found her artistic home in Paris. Born in Pennsylvania in 1844, Cassatt studied in Philadelphia, then traveled to Europe, eventually settling in France. She joined the Impressionists in 1877, becoming close friends with Degas, who admired her strength and skill. Cassatt's paintings often focused on women and children, like Morisot's, but with her own sensibility. She captured the bonds of motherhood, moments of quiet care, women engaged in reading, bathing, social life. Her colors are clear, her lines bold, inspired by Japanese prints. In works like The Child's Bath, 1893, a mother washes her child, hands firm, gesture tender. It is everyday life, but elevated by intimacy and grace. Cassatt opened doors for other women artists, challenging expectations, bringing Impressionism across the Atlantic. Pause. Imagine sitting beside a mother and child, watching the small rituals of care. Water poured gently, a towel wrapped warmly. Cassatt teaches us that beauty lies here too, in the ordinary gestures of love, in the rhythm of daily life. Camille Pissarro, the patient observer. Camille Pissarro, born in 1830 in the Caribbean island of St. Thomas, was one of the oldest members of the group and one of its most steadfast. Pissarro painted landscapes, villages, city streets. His brush was steady, his palette harmonious. He loved rural scenes, fields, farms, workers. His vision was democratic, humble, attuned to the rhythms of ordinary life. He was also generous, a mentor to younger artists. Cézanne, Gauguin, and others found in him encouragement, wisdom, patience. Pissarro's works may seem quieter than Monet's or Renoir's, but their quietness holds depth. He painted not spectacle, but the enduring beauty of fields under sky, the dignity of rural life. Pause. Imagine walking along a country path. Fields stretch, trees sway, a farmer bends to tend the soil. The air smells of earth and wind. This is Pissarro's vision, steadfast, humble, true. Alfred Sisley, the pure landscape painter. Alfred Sisley, born in Paris in 1839 to English parents, devoted himself almost entirely to landscape, while others painted figures, cafes, dancers. Sisley painted rivers, skies, villages, fields. His palette was cool, his brush gentle. He sought not drama but serenity. His paintings of the Seine, of snowy villages, capture atmosphere with delicacy. He showed that landscape alone, without myth or grandeur, could be poetry. Though less famous in his lifetime, Sisley's dedication to pure landscape helped define the Impressionist spirit. Pause. Imagine standing on a riverbank. The water glides, trees reflect, clouds drift overhead. This is Sisley's gift to remind us that in quiet landscapes we may find endless peace. Paul Cézanne, The Bridge Beyond. Finally, Paul Cézanne, who stood both within and beyond Impressionism. Born in 1839 in Aix-en-Provence, Cézanne began with the Impressionists, painting outdoors, capturing light. But soon he sought something more solid, more structured. He said, "I want to make of Impressionism something solid and lasting, like the art in museums." Cézanne's brushstrokes became blocks, his colors architectural. Mountains, apples, bathers. All were built from planes of color, as if sculpted in paint. His vision pointed toward cubism, toward modern art. Picasso called him the father of us all. Though restless, solitary, Cézanne remained tied to Impressionism, expanding it, deepening it, transforming it. Pause. Imagine Mont Sainte-Victoire, the mountain Cézanne painted again and again. It rises steady, eternal, yet always shifting with color, always rebuilt through brush and eye. This was Cézanne's quest, to find structure within impression, to make change enduring. Reflection. The many faces of Impressionism. Monet, the painter of light. Renoir, the painter of joy. Degas, the observer of movement. Morisot, the feminine vision. Cassatt, the American voice. Pissarro, the patient observer. Sisley, the pure landscapist. Cézanne, the bridge to modern art. Each different, yet together shaping a movement that transformed art forever. Pause once more. Imagine walking through a gallery where all their works hang. Light flickers from Monet's canvases. Renoir's dancers twirl. Degas' ballerinas stretch. Morisot's cradle breathes softly. Cassatt's mothers bend with care. Pissarro's fields sway in wind. Sisley's rivers glisten. Cézanne's mountain stands eternal. Together they speak not one language, but many harmonies of seeing. This was Impressionism, a chorus of vision, a celebration of life, a revolution painted in color and light. Section 4. Legacy and Transformation. Take a long, slow breath. We have walked through the origins of Impressionism, its techniques, its artists. Now we arrive at the final stage, the echoes it left behind, the transformations it inspired, the legacy it carries even now. This is not just the end of a movement, but the opening of countless doors. The shock of the new. When the Impressionists first exhibited, their work was ridiculed. Critics mocked their unfinished look, their broken brushwork, their disregard for tradition. One critic compared Monet's impression, sunrise to wallpaper with holes punched in it. Others sneered that these were not paintings, but mere impressions, half-done sketches unworthy of the salon, yet slowly, quietly. The shock turned to curiosity. Collectors began to see their value. Younger artists felt their freedom. And by the end of the 19th century, the same critics who had mocked now hailed them as pioneers. Pause. Reflect on this. What is ridiculed today may be revered tomorrow. Innovation often wears the mask of scandal. The Impressionists remind us that to see differently is to risk rejection, yet also to change the world, the spread of Impressionism. By the 1880s and 1890s, Impressionism spread beyond France. In America, artists like Childe Hassam painted city streets alive with flags and sunlight. In Britain, artists absorbed the shimmering brushwork, applying it to foggy Thames rivers and gardens. In Scandinavia, Russia, Australia, painters adapted Impressionist techniques to their own landscapes and light. The language of broken color, quick brushstroke, vibrant atmosphere became a global dialect of painting. Pause. Imagine light filtering through different lands, golden deserts, misty fjords, crowded harbors, quiet fields. Each culture found in Impressionism a way to honor its own visions. Beyond Impressionism, post-Impressionism. As the 19th century turned to the 20th, artists who had absorbed Impressionism began to push beyond it. They are often called post-Impressionists, each carrying the legacy in new directions. Vincent van Gogh, with his swirling skies, thick paint, art as emotion made visible. Paul Gauguin, with his bold colors, simplified forms, seeking the spiritual in distant lands. Georges Seurat, with pointillism, systematically placing dots of color to harness optical science. Paul Cézanne, as we saw, building structure from color, laying the groundwork for Cubism. Each took the Impressionist discovery that color, light, and perception are fluid, and transformed it into new visions. Pause. Think of Impressionism as a river, flowing, branching, feeding new currents of art. Post-Impressionism was the first great branching, a reminder that no movement ends, but evolves, transforms, finds new voices. The influence on modern art. Impressionism also laid the foundation for modern art itself. Without Impressionism, there could be no Fauvism, with its wild, liberated color, no Cubism with Cézanne's structured brushwork pointing the way, no abstract expressionism, without Monet's late water lilies dissolving form into pure atmosphere. The act of painting shifted. It was no longer about representing the world as it is, but exploring how we see, how we feel, how we interpret. Every modern movement, Fauvism, Cubism, Expressionism, Surrealism, abstraction, owes something to the Impressionist revolution. Pause again. Reflect on this chain. Monet painting sunlight on water, Cézanne turning apples into planes, Picasso breaking form into facets, Pollock dripping paint as gesture, all connected, a lineage of vision, Impressionism, and the public. Beyond the art world, Impressionism changed how the public viewed painting. No longer was art the domain of myth, kings, grand history. Art could depict daily life, the fleeting moment, the ordinary transformed by light. This democratization of subject matter made art feel closer to life. A cafe, a dance, a riverbank were now worthy of canvas. Today, Impressionist paintings draw millions to museums. Monet's water lilies fill rooms with quiet awe. Renoir's dancers invite joy. Degas' ballerinas whisper of discipline and grace. The very works once mocked as scandal are now treasured as masterpieces. Pause. Reflect on how perception shifts over time. The same brushstrokes that seemed chaotic in 1874 now soothe, inspire, comfort. The gift of art is not fixed value, but the ability to grow with us, to teach us new ways of seeing. The spiritual dimension. Impressionism was not explicitly religious, but many have found in it a spiritual quality. To watch light flicker on water, to see color vibrate in air, to witness the beauty of the fleeting. These experiences touch the soul. Monet's water lilies in particular have been called a kind of meditation. They invite stillness, contemplation, a surrender to endless change. Impressionism, at its heart, reminds us that the sacred can be found not only in temples, but in sunlight on a leaf, in the shimmer of a reflection, in the warmth of human joy. Pause. Close your eyes and picture light itself as the subject of painting, shifting, dancing, never graspable, yet always present. This is the quiet spirituality of Impressionism, an art of presence, an art of now, legacy in the present. Even today, artists continue to learn from Impressionism. Photographers echo its pursuit of light. Filmmakers draw on its atmospheres. Digital artists use its color harmonies. And for viewers, Impressionism remains among the most beloved of all styles. Why? Perhaps because it affirms life, because it shows that beauty exists everywhere, in a fleeting cloud, in laughter at a cafe, in ripples on a pond. The Impressionists remind us, look again, look closely. The world is shimmering with wonder. Pause once more. Imagine your own surroundings as an impressionist might paint them. The light in your room, the colors shifting on a wall, the fleeting mood of the hour. Even now, Impressionism invites you to see differently, to live more fully in the present moment. Closing reflection. We have traveled far, from the bold rebellion of young artists who painted not myths, but mornings, through their techniques, their innovations, through their lives and visions, through the legacy they left in modern art, in our very way of seeing. Impressionism began as scandal, but became revelation. It taught us that beauty lies in the fleeting, that truth lies in perception, that art can transform the ordinary into the luminous. As we close, take one last slow breath. Imagine the colors drifting across your mind. Soft blues, golden yellows, tender pinks, shimmering violets, brushstrokes alive, light dissolving into time. The Impressionists painted not just what they saw, but how it felt to see. And in their works, we too can learn to see differently, to find wonder in the everyday, to rest in the fleeting beauty of now. Rest with that thought. Let the images fade gently. And as your eyes grow heavy, remember, the world is always shimmering, if only we pause to notice.